Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond the Score podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Matthew Supinger. I'm joined once again with other co-host, Alex Perez. Alex, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. How you doing, Matt?
Doing pretty good. We got a very special guest today, volleyball head coach, Liz Hart. Liz, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Thanks for spending some time. I know the season's about to start up, so it's good to finally get you in a time where you're going to be not as busy once the season starts. So had a couple quick questions for you. First one, you have 5 freshmen this season, one being a redshirt. What was it about these freshmen that you felt, from recruiting, that they were ready to compete at a D1 university like NKU?
Yeah, so when we do our whole recruiting process, obviously there's a certain caliber athlete that we're looking for, whether it's a vertical, what they're touching, strength, explosiveness. But more importantly, we looked at character, and we are just so excited about who's on our team. Every single one of them have their own personality and their own strengths, which is fun to watch that all kind of come together and collaborate. But some of them are 6-row outsides. One's a setter. We have a middle, and then another middle, Katie, but she actually can play multiple positions. So we have a lot of versatility. And then we have a transfer, Sid, that came in for the semester, and she's been great too. So it's always fun to add a new group of student athletes that have totally different strengths and definitely add a lot to our team.
Mm-hmm. And kind of staying on that same topic of your roster, you're returning 2 seniors for their grad year this year. What was your message to them after a bit of a tough ending to last year's against Green Bay? What was your message to bring them back and say, hey, let's run it back one more time?
Yeah, Tori and Allie are just been great team members. Their improvement every year, I think if you watch from when they started as freshmen and babies and kind of have developed as players and improved their work ethic, improved their commitment level in the off season, that they've just been able to just become better volleyball players every year. And I think we use how the season ended as motivation. For us, our season always starts January 1. We give them that break of Christmas, and then we get back and we really hit it hard in the weight room. I think that's been the biggest improvement for our program, is getting in the weight room 5 days a week in the off season and getting a lot stronger, increasing our vertical, able to put more heat on the ball when we're attacking. And so they had a great spring, and just the same thing over the summer. They just came in and they worked really hard, and so they've been great leaders for our program.
So with such an age difference in your roster, have you been able to see them kind of unify pretty well and create a good friendship? And if so, what have they done as a team, whether it's at practices or outside of practices and workouts, that really has helped them bond very well?
Yeah, so there's definitely a difference, right? So the freshmen coming in, this is their first time away from home. Mm-hmm. They're nervous, they're excited, they have no idea what to expect. Our 5th years are like, I graduate in a year, I'm starting my MBA program, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And so there is a maturity gap, but at the same extent, Tori and Allie are just so welcoming and loving, if that makes any sense. But they also don't forget, like, hey, I was there and I remember what it was like when I was in your shoes, and I want to make sure that you have a better experience than what I even had, and I want to support you. And so we do a ton of team dinners. They actually did a scavenger hunt that they set up recently.
Oh, okay.
So they do a ton of things that are bonding, even just like going over to the dorms or calling them to see, hey, you want to come over for dinner? I'll make dinner for you. All those like little things add up and really make the freshmen and the newcomers feel welcome.
Mm-hmm. So kind of going back to that close loss to Green Bay last year in the tournament, what points have you had in kind of pushing this team to not only build more of a community, but be like, hey, this is what I want to try and hit going into the season?
Yeah, so I think every year your team's different. And part of the thing about being a coach is understanding what the strengths are of your team. So we were a totally different team than we are this year. And so we don't really talk too much about last year from that standpoint, because our strengths as a team are so different. So I think we've learned how to work hard consistently over time. I think all that's the same, but who we are is so different. Like when you watch us this year, I think the systems we're running, what our strengths are vastly different than who we were last year.
Yeah. I know me and Alex will be at plenty of those home games,
for sure,
so
yeah.
It's going to be cool to get to watch the improvement. You start out your season this year against some of the really tougher opponents that you can face in D1, Ohio State, Mizzou, Louisville, Kentucky. When you're talking to your team about the schedule, what is your your point that you're really trying to get in there and just be like, hey guys, don't worry too much about this. We're the Norse. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, so we intentionally schedule hard. We've probably done that the past 5 or 7 years. What I like about it is it keeps them motivated in the summer. So those summer days where you really don't want to go in and lift weights, or you really don't want to run those sprints, you know that you're playing Ohio State. You know that you're playing Kentucky. So you're going to get in, you're going to run those sprints and throw those weights and get stronger. So we use it as motivation. I also hear from my alums and our current players just how much they enjoy the experience of playing these teams and playing in these historical facilities and seeing the big crowds that these programs are able to get. And so it's a really great experience. The other thing that I really like about playing the best programs is the speed that they play the game and the efficiency. And so we talk about that all the time in practice, but there's not a greater place to learn that than experience it. So they can go to these games and we'll get to watch Louisville and Mizzou play, and they can watch them and say, wow, look at how fast they transitioned, or look at how they moved to this ball, or look at how they communicate. And there's so much you can learn by playing them, by watching them. And so, I think it just helps us prepare for conference. And they take it serious. Like, they get mad. They don't like to lose.
Yeah.
But we know that there's so much that we can learn, and it's such a fun experience. So we really like scheduling tough.
Mm-hmm. Alex, did you have some?
First wanted to hit on the community aspect of the team. What has been your favorite team bonding moment you've had so far this season or preparing for the season?
Yeah, so this team's fun. I really enjoy this team because they're a team. They get along really well. They care about each other. They're funny. I just probably appreciate, like this week, especially with school starting, the silliness of being a youngster and like some of the questions and statements I get. That's definitely been hilarious for me. It's been a long time, but I've been in their shoes, and I can remember kind of going to the wrong class and the wrong building and like, how do you figure out life when you're in this position for the first time? So I think that's been fun. I also have the team over every single year before our first practice. So they come over to my house, we make dinner, they get to hang out with my family. So I just really enjoy, seeing my kids love the players. They think they're the coolest in the world. And so just being able to hang out with each other and just have fun while we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay, so we talked about the schedule. Are there any games that you have specifically circled on your schedule this season?
Oh, man. Well, Ohio State's fun. My cousin's the assistant at Ohio State, and so I have my grandmas going up, my aunts and uncles, and so it's always just like a fun experience to be able to play Ohio State. But also, like, I love playing in-state schools, and we have plenty of them on the roster the schedule this year with UK and Louisville and Western Kentucky and Moorhead, and so that's a lot. Wright State's always a huge game for us. That's a big rivalry game in conference. So honestly, every game I feel like is, okay, now we got to focus on this week and try not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but very excited to finally start playing, and I know the players are too.
And I know we hit on the new players. Can you just speak to the importance of making sure they feel integrated into the team?
Yeah. Like I said, when you're new, you feel uncomfortable, right? You're already uncomfortable. It's new. They're away from their parents, waking up on their own, like walking to new classes. Like the whole experience for the first couple, week and a half is just very uncomfortable. And once they become older, we actually will joke about it. Usually by the, end of the season, for some of them, maybe it's their freshman year, like, I didn't talk those first 7 days. And it really doesn't matter how outgoing you are or quiet, like everyone's just kind of uncomfortable because you don't know what to expect. And so our players just being welcoming, encouraging, showing each other, hey, I'll go take you to the bookstore. We had on Sunday, some of our upperclassmen walked our freshmen around to each building so that on Monday they knew where they were going. It's just making them understand that we are a whole family. We're here to help each other, and to just ask questions when you need help. And once, they ask a question and everyone's there to support them, then they're like, yeah, okay, that's all I have to do is just ask the next question and just hang out with each other. So I already feel like this team gets along really well. They're fun. They enjoy each other. And I'm just really excited to see how the year goes.
Very nice. So looking forward just to pretty much the whole season as a whole, is there a bar you've set for saying like this would be considered a successful season for this team?
No, I think for us it's just the process. It's like, okay, this week we need to get better at this. So our passing was not very great recently. And so we spent a lot of time watching film, sent a lot of comments. We got in early today and we worked on it. And guess what? It got a lot better. And so I feel like it's just really trying to enjoy the process, get better every single day. We have a ton of potential. We have so much depth in a lot of positions. And so I think the ceiling's high, but we're also have to learn and we have to gain some experience while we're at it. And so I think it's more about making sure that we're working hard every single day, making sure that we stay focused on getting better as individuals, but also as a unit, as one together, and then just go from there. But yeah, I don't really go, even the seasons that we return a lot, like I don't really get into it. I'm just like, we got to work hard and get after it. And when it gets tough, you work harder. It's just one of those things that we just have to grind it out and get better every day.
Fair enough. So lastly, can you just talk about the environment at Regents Hall and why that makes it a must for the listeners at home to get out there and make it to games?
Yeah, so Regents is amazing, especially with the renovation. We were able to replace our 40-year-old court last year, and it's now 2 years old. And the branding looks great, like just the whole environment. We were able to replace the bleachers, and so the facility physically looks really good. But when we were able to sell out against Ohio State last year, having 800 people in the gym cheering, it's loud. The days that we get to have the band come, I can't even, talk in the huddles. I'm like screaming so that they can hear me. But it's a fun environment. The fans are like 15 feet from our players, and so they can feel the energy. And, it's just a great game to watch. Our players work really hard and they work together, and I think it's a very exciting game.
All right. Colton, I know you had a couple questions for Coach.
Yeah, so Coach, I had a couple questions about kind of your time as a player a little bit. I mean, you are the all-time kills leader here at NKU, and it's not every day that you have the all-time kills leader as your head coach. So I was just wondering, what were some things about NKU that attracted you as a player and then later on as a coach down the line?
Yeah, so when I first started in high school, the former coach here was my club coach. And so I would come over here and practice. And, originally I'm like most kids, like I'm going to go really far away. And then time got closer and closer. And I'm like, I really like to stay close to home where you get the best of both worlds. Like you can play in front of your family and you have that support, but you're also on your own and get to experience college. And so I liked the location of the university. To me, my favorite part about the university is the people, from the staff to the faculty members, professors. I just felt like this place is always very welcoming, and it's very down to earth, and a lot of people wear a lot of hats, and so I just love this place. And so when I had the opportunity to be a coach, it kind of rolled right into it. Like it felt the exact same, and I have so much pride in not only my program, but also into the department, into university. Like I've seen the work that the people in front of us have put in. I've seen the devotion, the passion that they have for this place, and I just want to make sure that that's something that I instill in our players, into the people I work with, just how special of a place NKU is and how we want to continue to work really hard so that all of our student athletes have a really positive experience.
And then kind of jumping off of that, what were some things that you picked up as a player that you feel translated well to coaching? Or what were some things that maybe didn't translate as well?
I think the mental game is the biggest thing. Is volleyball, any sport, right? It can be really hard. And so when you're training, I can remember going into the gym and like being like, I have to get better at 20 things today. That's not possible. And so I really had to prioritize. And so as a coach, calling someone in and just saying, hey, you look a little stressed today. Like, let's talk through it. Tell me what you're thinking. Let's come up with a way to reset ourselves. And I remember being in their shoes. I think from a coaching perspective, when I'm talking to my staff and we're talking about what we want to train, I'm like, we're going to train this first. This is the first step. So we're going to focus on that, and we're going to give them feedback on that only. And once they get better at that, we're going to go to this. And so the whole learning process, I would say, is because of how I learned as a player and what I thought worked as a player and what I thought was very overwhelming and I was like about to shut down. And so I think the mental side of it is the biggest thing that has helped me translate to a coach and just having a better understanding of how they feel.
All right, so my last question here is about 2012 when you transferred to D1. You guys went 25-7, which is kind of unheard of, for transitioning school. So could you tell me, like, how did that go so smooth? What were some things that maybe were hard to adjust just moving to D1 from D2, and just take me through that?
Yeah, so the transition was fun, chaotic, and stressful, like a massive learning curve. I was very lucky. We had 6 seniors that year. We had a very old team, a very experienced team. When we were Division II, we were 14th in the country. So it wasn't like we had really great players. I would say the difference between Division II and Division I or Division II and Division III sometimes isn't necessarily the technical side of volleyball. It's maybe more the physicality that's different. And so we had really great volleyball players, and that part was able to transition. The difficult part was scheduling. So when you're that first year, you don't have an RPI. So a lot of people are really scared to play you. And that's why we went to the East Coast twice, because those schools would play us. So we went out to Harvard and played in their tournament, which was really cool. Their gym is historical, and so that was fun. And we had to go to Bryant. And so you didn't see a lot of the bigger universities on our schedule that year because they wouldn't play us. And so we flew out to the East Coast twice. We went to Western Carolina, and our players, I think we might have started 11-1. We have some record for that too. I don't recall the exact record, what it was, win-loss. But we just kind of gained confidence. We won our first game against St. Peter's, and the girls were like, oh, we can do this. Like, we are just as good. And then I think we might have went 3-0 at Western Carolina. And so they just kind of gained confidence every weekend. And we just had a lot of experience, a lot of competitive players that expected to win because that's what they did in Division II. And yeah, it was great. It was fun.
So kind of like the last question I have, you were talking about how you have the players over to your house to have a meal. Do they have, like, the players who have been there longer, do they have like a specific meal that they're wanting to go with?
So my in-laws are from a smaller town in Indiana, and it's a lot of Amish families live there. And so there's like marinated turkey tenderloins.
Okay.
That's what we make every year with burgers. And then my father-in-law's a farmer, so it's homegrown sweet corn. And so it's kind of like a barbecue, but that's the only place they ever get that kind of protein from, back home. So, they just kind of like that. One, someone else is cooking for them. But two, it's just fun to get together and kind of just be able to enjoy a team meal.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Me and Alex, Colton, all appreciate your time. Thanks for
Thank you.
answering the questions so well and everything. And good luck on what will hopefully be an amazing season.
Awesome. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Well, that'll do it for the Beyond the Score podcast this week. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at BT_then the word score. And we will see you all in the next one.